little strange in that whoa, that's a bee!
Oh, it's been a long day and I'm tired.
I've really committed to the bit. Here's a fun one. The Ridley Noah Fast 3.0 is my favourite pro bike of the year. It's going to go into my gear of the year, and while it's not quite as balmy as the Colnago Y1 RS, I still think it's a bit too single-minded a machine for most of you to buy. Why? Well, I'll tell you that in the video. But that aside, it's an absolute blast to ride, either on my home roads where I tested it, out in Flanders where I went to the launch, or in beautiful Wales. This is only the second video we've done doing a bike review, but there's a whole load in the office, in the storeroom, so don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know in the comments which ones you want to see next. All right, let's address the aesthetics. This is a bike that's going to split opinion. It's a bit of a Marmite bike. Personally, I love it, but that massive head tube isn't going to be for everyone. I think most people who I've ridden with say it looks better in the flesh than it does on screen. But either way, something I've said quite a lot in my articles, I don't think fast bikes have to be pretty, but I actually like the way this one looks. But I think more and more we're going to see bikes that look crazier and crazier, and you don't have to like them as long as they're fast. Much like the Y1 RS, this is a bike that's going to get you noticed. You can't really turn up to the cafe ride, or any ride for that matter, if you haven't got the legs. It's not going to be any excuses. Clearly up the front we've got a massive head tube, but the whole bike has been designed by Ridley to fit into the UCI's new, I guess the bike box that all bikes have to fit in. And this has been designed to just fit into that box. So it's about as extreme as you can get within the current rules. The down tube is pretty chunky. It flares out to direct the airflow around my bottles. But the main piece of tech is obviously this huge head tube. Now it's been achieved without a bayonet fork. It's a standard, standard round steerer tube, not like the bayonet that you get on a Cervelo S5 or on a Colnago Y1 RS. All right, there's a lot I really like about this bike. The computer mount is not one of them. It's bulky, it's ugly, it holds the computer above the bars. It isn't strong enough to secure it, so over bumps the computer just drops down. So I've had to glue the retaining bolt in one side. But the worst bit about it is it's only secured in under there by a single bolt. So the whole thing can just sort of pivot, which means your computer ends up off center. As part of our CN Labs wind tunnel testing, we've tested the Ridley against nearly all of the World Tour competition, as well as our baseline rim brake Emonda ALR. So let's see how it stacks up. Compared to the Emonda ALR, you're looking at a wattage saving of 37.5 watts with the Ridley when tested as a bike only. Now that's compared to 40.3 watts for the fastest bike we've tested to date, which is the Factor 1, well, a fair bit faster than bikes such as the Look Blade and the Giant Propel that saved 24.1 and 29.4 watts respectively. Now, if you want to interrogate the full data, then head over to the CN Labs webpage using the link in the description. However, bikes need riders, and we've tested that too. With a rider on, it was still in the top half, and it was 6 watts slower than the fastest, which in this case is the Cervelo S5. Now, for all our wind tunnel tests, we run the bike with both the stock wheel set, a set of 62mm deep DT Swiss ARC 1400s in this case, and a standardized wheel set, a set of NV SES 4.5s. With the NVs in, it was 0.04 watts faster, a difference so insignificant that it is far less than our margin of error. And we don't just test with a block headwind, but rather across a sweep of yaw angles from -15 degrees through to +15 degrees, which we think should cover 99% of riding scenarios at 40 kilometers per hour. Some bikes handle the crosswinds better than others, but the Ridley makes a fairly typical V shape when we plot the results, meaning we don't see much of a sail effect in the crosswinds. As an example, this is the plot of the Colnago Y1 RS, which has more of an M-shaped plot. Now, for more of a deep dive into our CN Labs wind tunnel testing, make sure you check out our subscriber-only content that helps fund these tests. Of course, Aero numbers are meaningless if the bike doesn't ride well, so let's head out back on the road. All right, so if you've been following pro racing, you'll have noticed the trend. A lot of riders are now slamming their saddles really far forward. to get more over the bottom bracket. The theory is you get a more open hip angle and more power, which is, I guess, what they're all after. Ridley has changed the geometry of the Noah quite a lot, and the main way that they've done that is by steepening the seat tube angle. So it's got a 71-degree seat tube angle. I think the previous Noah was 73. So it looks like a really long bike. My mother cursed me with long, elegant legs and a full, thick head of hair, but it means I normally ride a 56 with a 90mm stem. Whereas here, I've got a 115 and it fits me just fine because your whole position is shunted forward. And that has the effect of putting you, whether you like it or not, into a very aggressive position. Almost TT-like. Now this is all compounded by the fact the cockpit, whether you like it or not, is 36 centimeters. Whether you're Cat 1 racer, or you're just buying it for a cafe ride, which you shouldn't do, you're getting 36 at the hoods, 40 at the drops. If you're riding for Uno X, you get 33 centimeters. But basically, it's not a bike you can chill out on because of the geometry. You're forced into this very aggressive position. And it means for long, gentle rides, winter mile, stuff like that, it's not necessarily the most pleasant place to be. The big question is, how does it ride? And it's pretty incredible. It's, by the numbers, it's a very, very fast bike. We've kind of seen that in the wind tunnel, but it feels fast on the road in a way that very few like top-end race bikes have sort of immediately. Part of that is the Aero package, but a lot of that comes down to the fact the cockpit puts you in an aerodynamic position whether you like it or not. And so that, plus the fact that it's really stiff. I mean, I've done 100k now on some lovely British roads. I'm a bit sore. If you want a bike to go fast, really fast, it's a great bike. It's a brilliant bike. It handles well. But if you want a bike for cafe rides, for club runs, kind of Sunday kicking around rides, winter miles, it's not the bike for you. If you're an amateur racer, oh, what a buy. It's great. It's really good. I mean, I've loved riding it. Yeah. Would I want to own one? No, it's probably not the bike for me. But I still think it's probably the best riding pro bike I've ridden this year, and it's still going to go in my gear of the year. A little strange that on slower rides, it feels a bit out of sorts. You're in such a racy position that it just feels weird not riding it as hard as you can every time you swing a leg over it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you're trying to have a recovery ride, it is, it's dangerous. What might come as a bit of a surprise is that it's no slouch on the climbs either. It's quite a hefty looking aero bike. It's not necessarily the lightest machine in the world. It's not like something you'd, in another cliche way, dance on the pedals up a climb. But the more forward position of the seat tube means you can stay seated for longer on steeper climbs. So if short, steep climbs are your thing, and you like climbing in the saddle more, it's a good bike in that respect. So where it really comes into its own is on shorter, punchy climbs, kind of thing you just muscle over, 30-second sprints, max effort. It's all down to this big old head tube, that and the cockpit and the forks and everything being similarly stiff. And it just eats up a sprint effort like nothing else. It's brilliant. Everything's singing from their same hymn sheet. And yeah, it's not necessarily a judge of whether a bike is good or not. There's a KOM I've been trying to get at home for about 6 months. Couldn't get it on the Y1 RS, could get it on this. Could just be that I was a little bit fitter, but even so, I like to think it's the bike a little bit. Makes me feel good. The handling is fantastic, but in a different way to something like the Pinarello Dogma, which has been my gold standard for the last few years. The wheelbase is slightly longer, but the cockpit being longer, the seat tube being steeper, and it putting you more over the front of the bike gives you incredible amounts of traction on the front wheel. So you can stick it into an unsighted descent with a lot more confidence, especially if you swap up to a slightly bigger front tire, than you'd be able to on, you know, any other bike that you've just ridden for the first time. So in that respect, it's great. And the wheelbase is a little longer than something like the Dogma, which is kind of darting and agile. But it means that at speeds, high speeds, it feels really stable. And so descending on it just makes you feel like a really good rider, which is always good. Quick note on tires while I have a little snack break. It's shipped as standard with a 30mm Corsa Pro at the rear and a 28mm at the front, which is more aero. That front end is really stiff. The whole bike is really stiff. And so I swapped it after testing it in Flanders over the cobbles for 30mm front and rear, and it really does improve things. You could go up to a 34, but a 30 front and rear is, I think, where the sweet spot is. A 32 on something like a Scope Artec set of wheels would be amazing. But yeah, bigger rubber really helps, and it feels really kind of muscular, and you can just barrel over everything. It feels like a really quite stolid bike over bumps. I've really committed to the bit. All right, at the start of the video, I kind of said, this is my favorite pro bike of the year. You probably shouldn't buy it. So it's a good one to go into as to who this bike is for. This in the Ultegra spec, you don't get a power meter. It's $8 grand. And it's kind of every bit the race bike you could want. But that is, I think, where it kind of finishes up where it needs to be. Like I think it's so single-minded and it's so good at what it does at the detriment of just general riding that I don't think it's necessarily a consumer-focused bike. And much like the Y1 RS, and to some degree the Cervelo S5, I don't think this is necessarily a consumer-facing bike. I think it is more so than the Y1 RS, but like, I think we're entering a realm of pro-only bikes. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think this is definitely one of them. Maybe not pro-only, but fast amateur at least. To conclude, because who doesn't like a snappy conclusion? I think the Ridley Noah Fast 3.0 is the best race bike I've ridden all year. I don't think you should buy it unless you are racing. And I mean it. There's fast bikes and then now there's race bikes, and this is definitely the latter. It's brilliant, I love it, it's going on my gear of the year. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to own one. If you've enjoyed this, which I hope you have, we've got a lot more in the shed at work. So let me know what you want to see in the comments. I'll try and get them in if we haven't got them. Remember to subscribe, hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.